刻むすべてマニュアル笑えないな正義じゃ救えない深み深いように全部散らえてのなる嘘ばっか
4 chapters taken from the perspective of Roger Richardson. My Dream and the Unexpected Visitor. I have never felt so inspired by a dream before in my whole entire life. It began with me running over the edge of a cliff into an endless void. At first the void was pitch black, but after 20 seconds and without warning, stars began to appear all around me. Funny enough though, when I got closer to the stars, I found that they weren't stars at all, but naked anime girls. Anime girls with blue hair, pink hair, white hair, red, and even brown. These are the hottest girls with the best breasts in town. Some of them are toned and some even toner. It would be weird if I didn't wake up with a boner. For some strange reason, every time I spoke, it was as if a weeaboo degenerate Dr. Seuss had written the words that were coming out of my mouth. As I continued to fall deeper into this sexy substitute for space, I witnessed every anime fetish imaginable. My nose is on the verge of bleeding just from remembering the sight of some of my personal favorite anime fetishes. Without warning, I came crashing into a field of grass. Once I'd come to my senses, I realized that I hadn't fallen into grass, but hair. Long green anime girl hair, swaying in the harsh wind generated by this strange world. "Lovely, is it not?" said a voice in a soothing manner. I turned to my left to see the face of an overweight man in a suit and a top hat. He also appeared to be holding an Akano waifu pillow. With his right hand, the free one of course, he was fondling his testicles rather excessively. "Hey, you there, with the hand on your scrot! Who are you and what's with the delicious Akano pillow?" Even though I had asked him about his waifu pillow, there was something about that particular one that seemed familiar. I could have sworn that I had read a story about a man who owned an Akano pillow, much like the one his hand was stroking. He gave me a smirk and then proceeded to bow in a polite yet off-putting kind of way. "I apologize for my social ineptitude. My name is Sylvester, but I believe you are more aware of my more infamous title. I am the Lord of Hentai." I almost shat my pants. I thought there was a reason he seemed familiar. "The Lord of Hentai? Wiser than most? You were in the news and that CreepyDinky Reddit post. You're an inspiration to those who fap to expertly drawn porn, and to the ones bombarded with undeserved scorn. Tell me why you've come to visit me. Could it be to witness this exceptional dream?" I could tell that my praise was causing him to blush a little. "I would have ventured into this exceptionally perverted dreamscape just for the chance to cast my lascivious gaze alone, but it would be dishonest if I claimed my attendance was for that reason solely. An acquaintance of mine has been requesting a meeting with you for quite some time, and believe me when I say that this individual, along with the company he keeps, is not one to be trifled with. What daddy wants, daddy gets, as the old adage goes." While cackling, he turned towards the sky and pointed. All of the anime girls were set ablaze until they were nothing more than smoldering ash. This was all too much to take. Watching those adorable waifus being burned alive and reduced to lifeless ash caused me to uncontrollably tear up. I felt I had to lash out. "How could you do that to those beautiful babes? You're a scoundrel, you're insanely depraved." Sylvester's tone became angry within seconds. "Silence, you fool! And stop sniveling this instant! Our guest has arrived at our party, and it is not polite to keep him waiting." Out of the sky, a figure came gracefully descending down. The figure had pitch black skin, which upon closer look appeared as though it was made of stone. There were cracks in its skin with orange light, like some sort of internal fire, radiating out of them. It had a monstrous face, with a mouth that had one shark-like tooth sticking out of the top left corner. The creature wore nothing, so it left its schlong, which was made out of solid gold, completely exposed. I also can't stress enough how rock hard its abs were. While I was getting a clear picture of the monster itself, the ashes of the anime girls were swirling around him. This had truly become a nightmare.
"Roger Richardson,"
the monster said with a deep, raspy hiss.
"Oh my, I have longed for the two of us to meet for quite some time. Such aspirations I have planned for you."
"That is so lame. How do you know my name?" I rhymed.
"I know the names of all the weeaboo degenerates that your foul universe has vomited forth. All perversions of the anime variety flow through me. I am Baku Naganin, one of the great 7 hentai demons, and I have chosen you to be a leader of my church."
"A church? What kind of church? Tell me now or I might go berserk."
"Whatever,"
he said, while stopping to roll his black, soulless eyes at my needless rhyming before continuing his explanation.
"I long for you to be a crucial figurehead in the Church of Hentanica. It is a congregation of devoted weebs that gives thanks unto me, as well as my infernal brethren, for bestowing upon them the unholy gift of hentai. In order for our church to take its rightful place as the one world religion, we need our unholy hierarchy to be complete."
This great demon could see that I was confused, so he continued to explain.
"The church hierarchy consists of an unholy trinity of clergymen. For the trinity to be complete, we need the archbishop, the cardinal, and the hentai pope. 2 of those positions have already been filled. One of them is the archbishop, and he certainly is a character we cannot wait for you to meet. The other is our beloved hentai pope, which, come to think of it, I believe you have met already."
A whistle came from behind me. I turned to see Sylvester standing there smiling at me. His face was consumed with pride, and he could not help but let out an arrogant laugh. "'Tis true, I am your illustrious hentai pope. I am the one who will lead Hentanica to glory. All the heathens that refuse to convert shall be trampled under my great fat foot. Oh, mighty Bakunaganon, when I vanquish all your enemies, I wish to be showered in the warmth of Donderes. The love I shall make with those bashful beauties shall cause me to splooge 7-fold.
"Of course,"
Bakunaganon promised while wearing a mischievous smirk.
"Anything for the one true lord of hentai."
Honest to God, it was difficult to believe that any of this was actually happening. "You mean to tell me this is all real, as real can be? This sounds like it came from that brilliant CreepyDinky. I must say that this comes as a surprise. I can hardly believe my hentai-addicted eyes." Bakunaganon gave me a look as if to indicate disappointment, but then he just let out a raspy chuckle.
"Oh, this is all real. As real as the little pink bow on your sister's panties. Since you have read that post which vividly detailed the experiments carried out by Sylvester, it has inspired you to have this dream, which in turn allowed a gate between our 2 worlds to be temporarily opened. Roger, I sense a hunger in you. A hunger for hentai that will help you obtain the power I need you to possess. Like I've said, the Archbishop and the hentai pope positions have already been filled. That leaves just one important position left. I want you to take up the responsibility of the Cardinal."
I couldn't believe what I had just been told. I was going to be the cardinal in this great church. And not only that, but I was chosen by a legendary demon himself. A demon with legions of followers that would back my every order if I so wished them to. The monster could tell I was feeling speechless, so he continued to speak.
"However, in order to become the Cardinal, you must complete an experiment. Your fellow clergymen have completed theirs, so it is only fair that you must complete one as well. I am sending the Archbishop to oversee your work. In fact, you shall see him very soon."
I must admit that his vague request for an experiment gave me an anxious feeling. What kind of experiment, might I ask? I'm afraid that it will be quite the pain in the ass.
Silence your human tongue, he roared.
Out of anger for questioning him, he made an anime girl who looked very similar to Astria from Heaven's Lost Property, or as the true weebs say, Sora no Otashimono, suddenly appear. At first all she did was strip off her white panties, but then she lifted up 3 fingers, implying that she was going to finger herself. This got me very excited, but then her fingers turned into a razor-sharp dildo, about 13 inches long. The Austria look-alike shoved the dildo through her eye and out the back of her skull. As if this wasn't enough, she tripped over her white panties, which caused her to fall and split her head wide open on the only rock in the field of anime girl hair. Her brain seeped out and laid there, contorted and squished on the rock. I'm going to cry just from replaying it in my head. Please, make it stop. I have had enough. I can't stand to see this anime girl treated so rough. I'll do anything. Please just tell me what. You want me to spank a cute girl on the butt? Bakunaganen had calmed down, but he shook his head at my suggestion.
I am afraid that nothing that minuscule can be counted as a hentai experiment, nor will I tell you what your experiment should be. What I can do for you is give you inspiration through my power. The power will surge through you like an electric chair of naughtiness until you have the idea of your experiment. An experiment that will please the great hentai demons and prove that you are truly worthy of the title the Cardinal.
Immediately after finishing his sentence, he evaporated into orange and black colored smoke. The smoke rushed over to me in a matter of seconds. I could feel a current move through my body, and I started to convulse as if I was having a seizure. So many dirty thoughts were being downloaded into my head. It was as if an entire hentai library had opened up shop in my mind. I felt as if I was going to implode. Then the sensation just stopped, and I fell to my knees, burned out from what I had just experienced. When I looked up, I saw anime girls running through the field of hair over the edge of another cliff. I had to try and save the babes. No, babes, this way! Going over that cliff is not okay. I tried to grab a red-haired girl, but I missed and she went frolicking over the cliff. Then I saw a light blue-haired one running towards me. I stood my ground, but the force of her crashing into me caused us both to go over the edge. Falling down towards the abyss, I could see adorable anime girls all around me screaming. I cried once more before the darkness swallowed me whole. At last, I had finally woken up from my dream. I was shaking and clinging onto my Momo Deviluk waifu pillow. The pillow was soaking wet, but instead of being caused by a wet dream, this time it was drenched from sweat. After using some Kleenex to dry my hands, I picked up my phone to check the time. It was 7:52 a.m., so I decided I should wake up and ponder over the dream I had just experienced. Oh, that was pretty intense. I took the time to appreciate my normal manner of speaking. Well, I guess the good news is at least I'm not rhyming anymore. But what am I going to do about that experiment? I'm sure that dream was real, because I can still feel the power of Bakunuganen coursing through me. I mean, wasn't it real? It sure felt real. I can't imagine my subconscious coming up with all of that out of the blue. I would never in a million years see myself as the cardinal of a church. I don't know. Maybe that Lord of Hentai story just got to me. Too much anime as well. Should probably lay off a little. Immediately after that thought, I heard a knock on my door. It was a little strange to have someone visiting me that early, but to tell you the truth, it's strange when I get any visitors at all. I got out of bed to go answer the door for my unexpected guests, but I immediately tripped over my Rune Elsie Jewelria waifu pillow and slammed my testicles into the doorknob of my closet. Damn it, Rune! No consideration for a man's scrotum! The knocking continued and never seemed to take a second to allow me to reasonably respond. Okay, I'm coming. I wobbled across my messy apartment, steadily making my way over to the door so I could finally shut this early morning visitor up. When I got there, I opened the door quickly in a way that would suggest that I was greatly irritated. "Yes," I answered rudely. I finally saw who had been knocking incessantly on my door for the last minute. It was a young man who looked as if he was about 24, but he already appeared to have an emerging bald spot in the middle of his scraggly mop of hair. For that matter, maybe he was in his 30s. It was incredibly difficult to tell. He looked like he was 5'6" in height, and he had a horrible posture. It was even worse than mine. His face was peculiar in the sense that there was almost something rat-like about it. He wore a dirty dark blue denim vest with baggy black shirt. The shirt had a large picture of Shiro from No Game No Life, wearing a pair of white panties with a pink waistband over her head. I'm guessing it was purchased from TeePublic or Redbubble or some other third-party source. To top everything off, he wore baggy brown cargo pants to match with the rest of his questionable fashion sense. I can relate to not being particularly fashionable, but this guy was something else. He was also not too happy with how I greeted him. "Jesus fucking Christ, is that any way to answer the door? You think I like to bust my ass getting here this early in the morning? Let's try that again." He reached over, took hold of the door handle, and slammed it shut, with him still being on the other side, of course. 5 seconds passed before I heard a knock on the door again. Even though I was hesitant at first, I reached over and opened the door. "Yes?" I said in a confused yet softer tone. I'm guessing he was fine with my response since I didn't have to repeat the action again. "You see, isn't life better when you're not acting like such a cunt? I think so. And since that's over, we can now work." He blew past me, wheeling in a large camel bag suitcase. After dropping his suitcase off in the middle of the room, he plopped down on my couch. Excuse me?" I said in a not-so-enthusiastic tone. "Listen, we can talk about where I'm going to sleep tonight, but first we have to talk about the work crap." "Sleep tonight? Like, sleep here? Who do you think you are? You can't just walk into someone's apartment randomly and demand that they give you a room." As you could see, it was not on my list of things to do to have some strange Shiro-loving asshole barge in and bark orders at me. "Who do I think I am? Well, maybe the Archbishop means something to you? Anything to say to that?" I didn't have anything to say to that. "That's what I thought," he continued. "Now my real name isn't important. Everyone either calls me Nezumi, Nez for short, or the Archbishop. Since you're training to be my higher-up, I guess I can't have you calling me the Archbishop all the time, so just call me Nez. Since that's all out of the way, we can now..." It was 8 a.m., the usual time that I wake up, so my phone alarm went off. Nez at first seemed annoyed that he had been interrupted, but that soon turned into a slight grin. "Is that the theme for To Love Ru Darkness?" he asked. "Yeah," I confessed rather ashamedly. "That show is pretty good. I saw into your room on the way in. You have a rune and a Momo waifu pillow, so I'm guessing you fuck with it." I got excited about being asked this. It's easily my favorite ecchi harem anime. It starts off alright, but then by darkness it really hits its stride. It also hits a steamier stride, if you know what I mean. "Like I said, it's pretty good. But I do think you're wrong with your waifu choices. It's Mikan, my dude." "Mikan? You mean Rito's younger sister? The one that oddly fetishizes her brother and accidentally gets fingered by him?" "Oh man, stop. You're making Boner Man come out to save the day. I saw some shit on DeviantArt the other day where Mikan gets eaten out by Yami while Yami transforms her hair into a vibrator to massage her own pussy, and I must say that needs to be canon." Yami is definitely sexy, but Mikon is not really my thing. He seemed to be irritated by my comment because he responded defensively. I guess that makes sense. You are a fucking normie after all. I'm surprised unraveling isn't your alarm. Why don't you go buy some Tokyo Ghoul merch from Hot Topic and watch a couple seasons of a guy crying, you cunt? Okay. Look, I'm not super into Tokyo Ghoul either, but I really don't understand why you're becoming this aggravated. Because sometimes that normie shit pisses me off. Don't think I don't see that Mari sent the guy a figurine on your coffee table. Look, she's kind of cute, but that hentai is not that good. You might as well just say Onichichi is your favorite hentai surface dweller, he yelled while pointing at me. Clearly, I had to defend my honor. I love Mari, and I won't allow you to belittle my taste like that. She is easily one of the sexiest and most adorable girls ever drawn, and that is final. Not to mention I love the whole vampire succubus angle. The fangs are super kawaii and give her 10 more sexy points, and succubus girls in general are kinda my thing. He rolled his eyes at my defense. If you want succubus girls, just watch Tiny Evil. That's a real cultured pick. When he told me that, I was starting to notice something about him. Yeah, I'm not really into that kind of hentai. Actually, can I ask you a couple questions? Sure. Who is your best girl in Date Alive? Kotori, but Natsumi in her true form is also pretty fire. Rosario Vampire? Yukari? Haganai? Kabato? Your favorite waifu pillow? Shiro, but I dig my Hana Uzaki pillow too. Dare I ask for your favorite hentai? Shoujo Ramune probably, but I've seen some other pretty crazy obscure shit that's almost as good. Now my suspicions have officially been proven valid. You picked all the lollies! You seriously picked everything that was a lolly or at the very least looks like a lolly. Now I could see he was visibly becoming angry again. So what? They're animated. They're not even real, so stop being a retard. Looking up lollies can't even get you convicted of anything. Maybe it's not technically illegal, but you don't find it concerning that you're attracted to something that looks, talks, and acts like a child? He scoffed at the very notion. If you're too dumb to know the difference between real life and fiction, then there's no helping a pussy like you. But hey, you do like runes, so I'm guessing you're into that Futanari shit, huh? War has been declared, and I will not be vanquished. Rune is a unique entity that happens to be sharing the same alien body with another entity that happens to be a boy. You have to think of it as some sort of alien Siamese twin situation with a shape-shifting twist. That means they are two separate entities with their own personalities. They even prove my point later in the first season of Darkness when Rune and Ren separate completely from each other and get their own individual bodies. She does not have a wiener, but in fact has a working vagina. She is also sexy and adorable and full of love and clearly a girl, and I will never stop loving Rune. You can't make me! Oh my god, my name is Roger and I like dudes. Lollies offend my delicate baby senses. Wah, wah, dirty diaper doo-doo, he said in a mocking tone. Look, I could talk about this shit all day, but I'm here because the Seven sent me to help you out. You have Bakunin Ganon's inspiration inside of you, but sometimes you need someone with more experience to help you handle that inspiration. It helps that I've got the power of inspiration too. Let me show you something cool. Nez guided me over to the mirror that I keep in the corner of my apartment. He took out a red Sharpie and started to draw what looked like a sigil on my mirror. The sigil was an upside down triangle with a mustache design in the middle of it. Nez grasped his hands together and loudly declared the words. Oh, Mimzagai, the great worm revealed. You give me the lollies I say are not real. I call you to come forth with all my heart, and bring forth your lollies from a land apart. After he was done reciting what sounded like an invocation, I turned to see a figure appearing behind Nez inside of the mirror. It was a large worm-like creature who looked to be at least 25 feet in length. The head of the monster was that of a rat, But what was really strange was the fact that it had a mustache. Not just any mustache either, but a mustache made out of pubic hair. I have definitely never seen anything like it before. "What is that thing behind you?" I asked. He turned to face me with a sinister-looking expression on his face. "That's Mimzagai, my friend. It is another of the 7 hentai demons. Each demon has something different that they bring to the table. This badass demon happens to give weebs the gift of lollies, which is why it specifically selected me for the position of the Archbishop. Pretty cool, right?" I guess? Truth be told, this was a lot to unload on someone. "Mimzagai's inspiration helped me come up with my first experiment. Wanna see?" I nodded due to my morbid curiosity. He pulled out his phone and opened up a video file on it. In the video, I could see Nez. He was on top of a girl having sex. There was no possible way that this girl was older than 15. I think he saw that I was a little uncomfortable, so he provided me with some subtext. What's scary is that he didn't tell me the situation in order for me to be properly informed, but he mainly just wanted an opportunity to brag about his experiment. "You see this cunt right here? I forced her to drop out of high school or I was going to strangle her mom to death with a belt. After she did, I made her my sex slave for about a week before I got bored of her." I could see he was laughing at just the memory of his act alone. "So you mean you were recreating Dropout with your experiment?" "Yep. In that hentai, if you drop out of school, you become a sex slave. But here's where I add a twist. Watch the video." I turned to look back at the phone again. He was still having sex with the girl, but he was reaching over to the bedside table where there appeared to be a steel pipe. He grabbed hold of the pipe and with it started to bash her skull in. She became more and more unrecognizable with each blow to the head. I honestly thought I was going to puke at the sight of her head being turned into a smashed pumpkin. Nez turned to me with such pride from watching his actions. "There's nothing like it. After all the times I've done stuff like this, it never stops being fun. Here's the thing. You can gain a little demon power from more wholesome experiments, but if you really want a ton of it, you gotta murder. The more murderous the experiment, the more power you get. The more depraved the experiment, the more power you get. That wasn't even as fucked up as I've gone before, but I'll spare your virgin eyes for now." "Thanks, I guess," I said in a sarcastic tone, which suggested that I was still disgusted by what I just saw. His tone then became more serious in nature. "You will have to go there. You think Bakunoganon wants some pussy who can't get his hands dirty as the Cardinal? Hell no! Bakunoganon wants a leader who can give Hantanica the strength it needs to take over this little normie world. But that's why your good old boy Nez is here to help. In fact, I have an idea that would be perfect for a newbie like yourself. We're gonna have you turn a girl into an actual anime girl." I know, it's a great idea. No need to thank me, I'm just a guy who likes helping out his friends." I was confused by his suggestion. "Wait, isn't that what Sylvester did for his experiments?" "No, cumtard. Did you even read the story? He dressed the girls up in costumes and wanted them to act out their specific anime girl personalities. We're gonna do way more than that. We're gonna actually turn a girl into one." "I'm not sure I understand." "Well, you are pretty slow. Don't worry, I'll help you though." Even though I wanted to protest, I could feel the power of inspiration inside of me. It seemed to be telling me that this is what it desired for my first experiment. "But I thought I had to come up with the idea for the experiment. It just feels like yours." He shook his head. "It doesn't really matter. You'll take the credit and I'll have some fun. Sounds like a win-win if you ask me." I thought about it once again, but then decided that it was probably for the best that I accept his idea. After all, I figured it would be worth it in order to take me away from this uneventful life that I live now. I was going to be the much-respected cardinal of a church, and be allowed to watch ecchi and hentai shows all the time forever. Perhaps Bakunoganon would give me some real waifus from the hentai dimension as well. "Let's do it then. If it helps me to become the Cardinal, then I'm in. Nez looked pleased that I was finally seeing the situation his way. Great, then it's settled. We'll work today on setting everything up, and tomorrow the real experiment can begin. Now, do you have a rain or something else like that? I need one if I'm going to take my early morning shit. An experimental abomination. Anyway, I keep picturing all these little kids playing some games in this big field of Ryanall. Thousands of little kids, and nobody's around. Nobody big, I mean, except me. And I'm standing on the edge of some crazy cliff. What I have to do? I have to catch everybody if they start to go over the cliff. I mean, if they're running and they don't look where they're going, I have to come out from somewhere and catch them. That's all I do all day. I'd just be the catcher in the rye and all. I know it's crazy, but that's the only thing I'd really like to be. Holden Caulfield from The Catcher in the Rye. Sylvester always used a quote before doing one of his experiments, so I felt like I should keep with that tradition. Mine is a little longer, but it's hard to leave anything out of this particular one. I picked it because it reminded me of what happened in my dream the other day when all the anime girls were running off the cliff into that dark abyss. I tried to do what I could, but I still failed at saving them. In fact, I couldn't even save myself. Maybe I'm not good at picking quotes, because apart from the literal parallels between what Holden said and what happened in my dream, I can't really seem to actually apply it. There's this sense that it's important, though. Especially since everything else in my dream was more than just nonsensical dream meandering. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me later. For now, I guess I'm just the catcher in the anime girl hair. Nez had sent me a text to meet him at an abandoned meatpacking plant just on the outskirts of town. If you knew where this was, then you know that there was a high probability that no one would be around the vicinity of the building. At the most, you might run into some strung-out bum, but that was still on the unlikely side of things. There was no electricity, so Nez had spent most of yesterday setting up his own lighting system, using candles and battery-powered lamps. I feel like I personally didn't really do much in preparation for this experiment, with the exception being that I chose the girl. Nez and I scoped out a college campus for someone that I thought would be a perfect candidate. Nez suggested a middle school, but I quickly declined his suggestion. There were some girls that caught my attention, but it wasn't until I saw one in particular that I finally knew I had found the one. She was so perfect, in fact, that I thought I was falling in love just from watching her walk by. This girl had long, light brown hair and the most gorgeous light blue eyes you've ever seen. Her breasts were average, but she had an amazing booty that was accentuated by her dark green leggings. Her figure suggested that health was a high priority for her. With the college directory and some social media stalking, we found out her name was Phoebe Agnello. She was a 19-year-old college student majoring in human psychology and minoring in biblical studies. Through my social media stalking, I found out that her mother had passed away when she was 12, leaving her father to care for her and her younger brother alone. There was something so tragically innocent and upbeat about this girl that it made her just my type for the experiment. By any logic, she should have behaved like a shundore or a kudore, but instead resembled a dore-dore. Now, if I can convince her to mix in some gudore with the dore-dore archetype, I will be in anime heaven. I arrived at the plant around 9:34 a.m., ready to see what Nez had prepared for me. Walking inside, I must admit that it felt incredibly eerie due to all the candles and lamps. I followed the path of a conveyor belt until I saw Nez waiting in front of a large metal door. He seemed way more excited than I was. This room behind me hasn't held a piece of meat in years, but now thanks to yours truly, it has some of the best prime rib in town, he said while laughing at his joke. You're quite the comedian, I must say, I retorted facetiously. Care for a leg or a breast? I have no idea why he found this joke so amusing. Can I please just see her already? I snapped back at him. Jesus, you're no fun. I do you a favor, and I can't even enjoy the fruits of my labor. This way, your highness. He opened the door to expose a room with hooks dangling from the ceiling. This room was illuminated only by candles, which seemed to give it an occultic look. I could see Phoebe was in the middle of the room, chained to a chair. Her light brown hair had been dyed a light shade of red, and had been tied up into pigtails. She also had been stripped down to a skimpy white bra and panties. As you can see, I've been busy. You like my work? Nez asked while turning towards me. I'm honestly speechless. I don't know what to say. Nez turned back to look at Phoebe with a wicked gleam in his eye. I was going to put the maid outfit on her, but since it's your experiment, I figured you should do the honors. Me? Did I stutter? Yes, you! He held up a maid outfit and proceeded to hand it to me. I do love maid outfits, but why a maid outfit again? I asked, confused by his specifications. I thought it was fitting. I'm mirroring a hentai I watched a while ago where a cute, innocent redhead gets kidnapped. She gets forced into a maid outfit at one point before she gets beaten and fucked. You are pretty basic in your culture, so I'm not surprised you haven't seen it. Just take the fucking thing already. Alright, I'll do it. I took the maid outfit from him and slowly walked over to Phoebe. Can you take the chains off? I asked. I don't have a key. Oh, little Precious doesn't have the keys. Catch! He threw the keys over to me, but I had poor coordination, so I dropped them. Nice one, dumbass, he yelled. Yeah, I'm sure you're a better athlete than me, I said with a great deal of sarcasm. I picked up the keys and used them to unlock the chains. The instant that I had removed the chains, she fell to the floor. She seemed incredibly tired, and perhaps dehydrated too. Is she okay? Have you even given her anything to eat or drink? Oh shit, I forgot. My bad, he said in a casual tone. I sat her back on the chair, then I proceeded to lift her legs up just enough so I could begin to slip on her maid outfit. As I was slipping on the sexy outfit, I brushed past her thighs. The sensation made me want to soak in the whole situation. I was really putting a maid outfit on this beautiful girl. It was especially exciting when I grazed her tight panties. Excitement kept growing in me, but then I saw her face. It looked exhausted, and her eyes appeared to be bloodshot from crying. I also noticed she was covered in bruises. Something felt off about the whole thing, and I didn't really feel like perseverating on it. I quickly finished putting on the maid outfit and decided I was going to get her some water. The fuck was that? You could have at least pretended to enjoy it. I can't fap to that. Nez seemed disappointed, but to tell you the truth, I don't really think I care too much what he thinks. Put your wiener away. I'm going to get her water. I left the room for a minute in order to get her a water bottle, but when I got back, I saw Nez crouched beside her with a case about 4 to 5 inches in length on both sides. What are you doing? I asked in an annoyed tone. The bastard grinned at me, and then opened the case. He took out 2 circular objects. You see these? They're colored contact lenses made to look like actual anime girl eyes. I got some blue ones. I noticed something quite crucial about them. There's no way she can wear those. They're too big for her. That's when his mouth started to curl upwards into a grin, and he gave me the scariest look I've ever seen. He looked like the devil himself. Yep, just like normal anime girl eyes are supposed to look like. I can see why you think it'd be a problem for human girl eyes, but you know what they say, if it don't fit, make it. He leaped up and pulled Phoebe back by her pigtail so that her face was staring at the ceiling. She desperately squirmed around while closing her eyes, but he used his left hand to yank her right eyelid open before using his right hand to force the contact into place. Naturally, he had to maneuver it in such a way to have it enter inside of her eye socket. On the way inside, it stretched the skin around her eye in unnatural ways. I'm guessing I did some kind of damage because blood started to trickle down from the bottom of her eye. "No, please, stop! Oh God, no!" she screamed in agony. "Sorry, I can't hear you," he said while howling with laughter. Picking up the other contact, he executed the same torturous method. Phoebe screamed, kicked, and cried out until she started choking from her dehydration. I had no idea why I was going along with this at first, but then I realized that with every act of sadistic depravity, the demon power in me would release euphoric energy. It was the kind of euphoric feeling you get from an assured sense of confidence in yourself, combined with a large amount of dopamine being released into your brain. I'm sure that if I had actually been performing the unconscionable act, the release of the euphoric energy would have been greater. "Look at this shit," Nez said in a boastful manner. "I'm a true artist." I looked at Phoebe Agnello for what seemed like an eternity. Truthfully, I was just trying to understand what I was seeing in order for my mind to actually process that this was reality. I promise it was nothing more than that. She now in fact had anime eyes that were so abnormally big for her eye socket that they refused to let her naturally close her eyelids again. Blood was leaking down her face, and every drop that fell further stained the white apron on her dress. It was a disgusting, morbid sight, but I could still feel the demon power just from looking at the state she was in. I truly was conflicted. "Yeah, I bet you like watching that, you dirty fucker. Maybe you're a cuckold. That explains why you don't do anything." I was offended by the accusation. "Shut up! This feels like your experiment anyway, since you seem to have everything planned, and I have no idea what I'm doing." Nez shook his head at me. "I need you here because the Seven want you as the Cardinal. If it counts as your experiment, then who cares who actually does it? They do have me on a time crunch though, so if you'll excuse me, I still have some work to do." He walked over to the back corner of the room and came back wheeling a machine with a tank attached to it. The tank contained a liquid that I was unsure of until he informed me. "This is saline, my dude. Tell me, do you like boobs?" "Of course. What kind of a question's that?" "I'm just fucking with you. But in all seriousness, you're about to see some sweet anime boobs." He turned to face Phoebe while lifting the long, thin tube connected to the tank. At the end of the tube was a needle so sharp that it was as if you could poke yourself just by looking at the insidious instrument. "Tickle bitties, bitch!" he yelled while shoving the tube into her left breast. Nez pressed a button on the side which caused the machine to start pumping the saline inside of her. Phoebe's boob was progressively getting bigger by the second until it was larger than that of a basketball. The giggling fiend took the tube out and used duct tape to seal the hole so none of the saline could seep back out. Her other breast received the same treatment. At this point, Phoebe had stopped screaming and instead had the face of someone who had gone into shock. "Isn't this enough? She already looks kind of like an anime girl," I pleaded. I was still at war with myself on the inside. The demon power felt amazing, but my conscience could not stand to see this horrific display of sadistic torture. Nez, on the other hand, had not seemed to have had his fill yet. hippity hop, call me senpai, bitch!" He pulled out black bunny ears and a high-powered staple gun from his camo bag. The bunny ears were slammed on her head very roughly, and he slowly started to staple the ears in place. With each staple, she would let out a tiny muffled yelp, as if she was being brought out of the merciful numbing hands of shock back to her nightmarish reality. "Call me senpai! I said call me senpai!" he screamed at her. "Is that really necessary? She's clearly not handling this well," I pointed out. He turned to me with a face that suggested he was tired of my protesting. "Well, I guess she'll have to handle something else then." Nez kicked her out of the chair and onto the floor. Reaching into his supplies, he pulled out a Ziploc bag with an egg inside of it. While laughing to himself, he kneeled down in front of the girl and was creeping towards the bottom of her dress. "What in God's name are you doing?" I demanded to know. "Isn't it obvious? I've always wanted to try this. This egg is going up this cunt's hole." I thought I was going to puke, which seemed to be a regular occurrence when dealing with Nez. That is the foulest thing I've ever heard. That has nothing to do with turning her into an anime girl. Chill out, cockblock. It's just part of the experiment, he said with a snicker. This is supposedly my experiment, and I say enough. I ran over and slapped the egg out of his hand, which in turn caused him to jump to his feet in anger. Are you fucking out of your mind? You need this experiment if you want to be the cardinal. At that moment, just looking at his rat-like face made me want to vomit. I'm not a sadist like you. A life should not be treated like that. Sexual pleasure and acts such as that are completely inhuman. I had to fight back tears in order to not seem weak in front of Nez. Wah, Nez is too sadistic and doesn't give the girls pretty pink flowers, yeah, he said while mocking me with an impression. It is inhuman because anime girls are not human. Get that through your thick, retarded skull. And don't kid yourself. You felt the demon power, and I know you thought it felt great. When I feel it, it feels like I'm the most powerful person on the planet. Even Sylvester always says it feels like the sweet song of 1,000 orgasms. Understand that the demon power is all that matters in this world, and our hentai experiments are how we get it. Shaking my head, I asked him, surely we can appreciate the beauty of anime girls, and even real girls too, without getting off on their suffering, can't we? Now he shook his head at me. My, aren't we a naive little turd burglar? Look, I'm gonna go eat something, and then I'm gonna take a nap. In a couple hours, I'm going to finish the experiment, so you have until then to decide whether you want to stop being a bitch or not. Adios! Nez left quite irritated, and as for myself, I had definitely been in higher spirits. I knew the Cardinal was the opportunity of a lifetime, but what cost was I willing to pay? Whether I liked it or not, I was going to have to make that choice.